Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Let's Talk. This is Shobhik Roy Chaudhary here, joining you today from the studio. And with me, I have a very special guest, Mr. Aditya Sinha. He started his work in the field of journalism from 1987 and has also been the editor-in-chief of New Indian Express, DNA, Deccan Chronicle in Hyderabad, and he has also reported terrorism in Punjab, Assam, Kashmir, and also from Peshawar, Pakistan. And he has also authored 3 books, including The CEO Who Lost His Head, Death of Dreams, A Terrorist's Tale, Farooq Abdullah, Kashmir's Prodigal Son, a biography. So, Mr. Sinha, a warm welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And let's kick off today's episode with the most interesting question. You have covered stories of terrorism from Punjab, Assam, and also Kashmir. And apart from that, you have also been to Pakistan, right?
Right.
So how exciting and dangerous was it for you to report from the conflict zone?
Oh yeah, I mean there are dangers, there are excitements. Since we are in Assam, I'll mention that once. I don't know if you remember this, but in 1990, there was a mass grave found that the Alpha had killed a lot of people, and it was at Lucky Pathar. I don't know if you remember that. So I went with a team from Delhi when that thing was uncovered, and so it is a situation like that where it's the stink is very strong.
Okay, and this was during a stint with the New Indian Express?
No, I had briefly joined a paper started by Dhirubhai Ambani, which is no more like Dhirubhai Ambani, called the Business and Political Observer, which we used to call BPO. Again, a name before its time. At that time, nobody knew BPO. Now, everybody knows what is BPO, right? So, I had left Times of India. I was in BPO, and so I went on this, as soon as the news broke, the BSF, I think, took us in a plane and to Digboy, and then from there we went to Lucky. And so the thing is that it may seem glamorous and exciting, but actually when you encounter something like that, then, those are not the words. People have died, their bodies are there, they have died a terrible death, and conflict has never resolved anything. And I mean, I of course I have sympathy with people who are seeking political solutions to grievances. They have political grievances, and then when they find all the doors shut, then they feel they have to take up arms. But then you encounter a scene like that, and you can only be completely taken by the tragedy that results in this, political mismatch, political misalignment, and so that's there. And I had in Kashmir in 1993, in October '93, there was, for 1 month from September to October, there was a siege. So the JKLF, Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, they had some boys inside this Hazratbal shrine, which is a very important shrine for the Kashmiris, and it's said to have a strand of hair of the Prophet. And so the army had surrounded the place. So there was a month-long siege. So every day it was it's boring, not glamorous to go and listen to the army's briefing, and then sometimes the boys inside, they will go from one window and shout slogans and stuff like that. But the separatist group, the Hurriyat, all parties Hurriyat Conference, on Fridays they would call Hartal, where the entire valley would shut down. And the first Friday it was very violent. There were a lot of violent. And in Anantnag, I don't remember the exact number, but around 25 to 30 people were killed in a firing by the CRPF, I think. And again, that's it's hardly something that's glamorous or exciting, right? But and then there are moments of personal terror, like once one group, they objected some story. I was in the Pioneer that was published, and they put out one thing, sort of, that they would reward whoever. And another terrifying moment was after 9/11. I was in Peshawar for 5 weeks. I had a month-long visa and I got it extended, but then somehow, the ISI woke up and they, they had a lawyer jirga, which is tribal assembly of these Afghans, and to decide, what's going to happen, because the Americans were close to driving the Taliban out, which they did, I think, maybe a week or 10 days later. So at the lawyer jig, I was sitting there in the press, and then these guys came. They were in plain clothes, and they asked me to
so
come
they were
away.
From the ISI, right?
Well, I presume nobody ever says,
Okay.
ISI, come. So they took me somewhere, in the cantonment for a day long of. So I was. That was not a comfortable episode. Let's say I was. I mean, I can. That's 22 years ago, or 21 years ago, and I can look back on it, and but at that time it was a. But eventually they put me on a plane and sent me to Dubai. Late at night.
Apart from deporting, were we put under any mental harassment or torture by the security forces in Pakistan?
But this was an example. I won't go into any details, but it was a pretty terrible day of my life. So. But other than that, it's, recently I co-authored a book with the former RAW chief, A.S. Dulut, called Kashmir the Vajpayee. Then after that, we co-authored a book with the former ISI chief, Asad Gurabi. So we could not do it in Pakistan. We could not meet. Basically, I moderated a discussion between the two and then wrote it up, and it was a book, and it was a bestseller called The Spy Chronicles. So we could not meet in Pakistan, we could not meet in India, so we had to meet. We met in Istanbul, we met in Bangkok, we met in Kathmandu even. So again, with two old guys, it can't be so great. It's not like James Bond going to Istanbul, right? It's two old guys and me. I'm also an old guy. So, but when I met Durrani, then it has nothing to do with torture. It's just that I don't know how to put it. First of all, I thought that if he's supposed to be like the brainiest of the ISI chiefs, then I thought, what a sad statement on ISI chiefs if this guy is the brainiest. That was my first. But I'm that way I'm very much a snob. So I say that about many people. So maybe you should not take that seriously. But anyway, but also so these guys, they're so hard-nosed in their assessment of things. So, like you see like a mass of bodies at Lakhi Pathar or in, Anantnag. And then these guys, they talk about such decisions as if, they're playing chess. Right, and they don't, they are so divorced. So as a reporter, the best thing about being a reporter is, you go to all strata of society, and a reporter can meet a sex worker and can also meet the commissioner of police, right? So probably that's why people refrain from terrorizing you.
Okay.
They know your access is everywhere.
Right. So coming back to the point where you started covering the conflict zone.
Yeah.
I think the very first time, if you can recall, the very first time you covered a conflict zone, how difficult was it for you to process that night that you have been in a near-death experience?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know the first time. Maybe there was a bombing at Citibank in Delhi, or maybe it was in Punjab. Because that, it was in 87, 88, like that. It's just like at Citibank, there was a blast, and it was in Connaught Place, and I just had to go from ITO to Connaught. I don't know if you're familiar with the geography of Delhi, but they are not very far away. They're very close. So as soon as it happened, and I was a crime reporter, so always in touch with the police control room. So I went over there, and I mean, nobody had cleaned up anything. So that was the first time I saw anything like that. I think it was all. I mean, that is the first thing I remember, and also there was some Punjab militants who were killed in an encounter. In fact, that was outside of Gurgaon, and I went to Gurgaon, which was a long trip in those days. And I saw these guys, they were on the floor and they all had blue nails. So I was puzzled. So police said that no, they've, consumed poison. That's why the nails are all blue. They're blue like, like the blue ink, we used to put fountain pens.
Right.
It was that kind of, all the fingernails were blue. And the lips are also bluish. So lips bluish is one thing, you see that on smokers also, but the fingernails were blue. So these are, I mean, these things, they're in your mind, and at that time you're impressionable. It's not, and then you have to write a story also. So you have to go, and on the way, and there are some people in your newsroom who say, on the way you can compose the first 2 paras in your head. And I thought, what is this fellow saying? He has never been in this situation. He's saying on the way you compose the first lead para in your head. So
okay. So you also have had your lion's share of experience of covering a lot of incidents from Kashmir also.
Yeah.
So coming back to the Kashmir issue, so what do you think India and Pakistan is heading towards the Kashmir issue?
I don't know where they're heading towards, because India has taken earlier India was not so strong on the international stage, and then Kashmir was probably used by like in '93. I remember there was Robin Raphael. She was an Undersecretary of State in the US State Department. And she made a statement about, we question the legality of the accession. So Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. They were all, everybody is upset in India, but they couldn't do anything because Indian foreign policy was very different. It was just changing. Because before 1991 is when the Soviet Union ended, and we had a great relationship with the Soviet Union, which was not liked by the United States. So at that time, we felt we were under pressure. And in 1994, Narasimha Rao sent Vajpayee, who was the BJP, to the UN Human Rights Conference in Geneva, to state our case, because there were a lot of human rights allegations against India. The thing is that we were on the back foot. Now India has, grown stronger during the time of Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh, right? So Kashmir, and Modi, after coming, has decided apparently that he is not going to. He will keep Pakistan hanging. Is basically. I mean, Modi and the BJP and the RSS view is that we will not focus on Pakistan, we will focus on China. They've decided that in Pakistan, you may have noticed recently, is really in a bad shape economically. And so there is no reason for India to do them any favors. Right? Because if you settle Kashmir, then you're doing somebody a political favor. Whoever settles Kashmir, to whatever it may be, whether it is Musharraf or even if, on the ground they are losing something, the fact that they are settling it will be in their political favor. And, there's a very, it's a tussle between the armed forces and, the political class. It's a very complex and complicated, anyway, the thing is that, so India doesn't have to do anything, but, India has also revoked Article 370. So it's easier for the Chinese to do something in Ladakh, right? And it also, helps Xi Jinping in his internal politics, right? Because he's consolidated power, but there are people who are willing to, biding their time against him. So, and the thing is that now, in government of India, at the present regime, they came in in June 2020, and they moved our patrolling area inwards. So they see that and they see that they can get away with it because the government doesn't want to talk about it because they are afraid they will lose, political support. They have to, because the government is founded on the image of muscularity and toughness and whatnot. And if the Chinese do that, then the Pakistanis, they will see an opportunity, because India, they may brag about being able to do a two-front war, but can they do a two-front war? It's very doubtful. Americans are not going to come running to help us in Ladakh, or Americans will just be making sure China doesn't go into Taiwan at the same time. So sorry to make such a complicated scenario, but the point of it is that there are some risks. Now this government, they're more likely to take risks than other governments, because they feel that that is the stamp of a strong government. So they probably don't think that they will face a two-front war, but they keep saying that we can face a two-front war. So on Kashmir, you asked me a very simple question. I gave you, world tour, and at the end of the world tour, I don't know what will happen. I don't think, it will go on like this, and I don't think government is going to concede anything. And even if tomorrow or next year rather, somehow Modi loses, which I don't see happening, and some other government comes, whether it is a single party government or Khichdi government or whatever it may be, I don't think, a lot of positions that this government has taken on security matters, on strategic matters, I don't think anybody can change them now. They can't pull them back. They cannot, they will have to, they can't.
It's not very easy to, take those things off the soil.
I agree with you. It's virtually impossible.
Right.
Because, these are such strong positions to be taken. Now, if suddenly somebody comes tomorrow and they say that we will talk to Pakistan, then, whatever they may look like in the eyes of the average Indian, whether that person is in Tamil Nadu or Assam, the thing is that it opens up a lot of, fronts for the opposition, whoever BJP will be in opposition, to attack them. So if their agenda is to fix the economy, then they'll be too busy fending off these attacks.
Right.
So I don't think anybody is going to touch these issues. Again, I digress. So.
Okay, so I think in 2022, the World Press Freedom Index, the report that came out, I think India's rank fell to 150 out of the 180 countries. So what we have been seeing, there is a lot of press freedom that is being muzzled in the country.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the reason behind this?
Well, there are several reasons. See, one fault is with the press itself. Now, newspapers around India, if you see, they're run by industrialists. And there was, even before Modi or anybody, there was corporatization since the 90s. Working in Assam Tribune, you know that the only currency a newspaper has is its credibility, right?
Absolutely.
So now when corporatization erodes that credibility, when they are, printing advertorials, and trying to fool people into thinking they are genuine news, so it's already weakened.
But don't you think that advertising is an integral part of a newspaper's revenue?
No, I don't think. Why should it be? These guys have made it that way. But it was not always so. Advertising has always been there. But it has not been there to the detriment of everything else. See, newspaper reading also has been a niche, was traditionally a niche activity. It's not everybody in every country, everywhere in the world is reading newspapers. Right, but in order to, these people turn into mass circulating things. Now, I'll give you an example. I went to Thailand a few years ago, to Hua Hin, and at the airport, while we were waiting for the shuttle to take us to Hua Hin from Bangkok, this is pre-corona and all that, then I went to the newsstand and I saw that the Bangkok Times, there were two English papers, one was Bangkok Times, and it was 25 baht. And 25 baht, I think, was around 3 rupees, and 1 baht was around 3 rupees at that time. Maybe I'm wrong, but something like that, 2.5 to 3. So, that's nearly 75 rupees. But of course, the average Thai person is not thinking in terms of rupees. But whoever is reading Bangkok Times is willing to pay 25 baht per issue, right? The cost of production. So in India, we have distorted that by making advertisers pay for it. So advertisers are dictating, not the reader. Reader is not saying that I want to read this, and people are saying, oh, he wants to read that, let's, or she wants to read that. It is essential, but the thing is that we have to make it bring it an equilibrium back, right? Cover price should count for something, so that you're not beholden to advertisers. So that's one thing that has weakened journalism. So, like for instance, on this recently, a New York-based investment firm, they brought out a lengthy report on the Adani's holdings. Now, they said that they were
referring to the
Hindenburg report. And now this was brought up in Parliament. Now, the newspapers, you will hardly find any mention of Hindenburg report. What you will find mention of are Adani's, his spokesmen's draping themselves in the flag and giving all sorts of safai, excuses. Or if they, the day they drop, then that's muted, the news. But the day they recover, then that's, played up. One of the opposition members, Rahul Gandhi, he brought it up in Parliament, and all those references, not only did the Prime Minister not respond to those things, those references were expunged. And again, these things are not critically seen. See, the other thing is that nobody writes critically. Nobody dares write critically, because then they will get visited by the Enforcement Directorate or somebody. So, but what is the function of the press? The press, we're supposed to be watchdogs of democracy.
Okay, so you have also authored books on fiction, and from reporting and producing facts to writing fictions like the CEO who lost his head. So, which one is more intriguing?
Yeah, when I was a student, so I used to read a lot of fiction, and all kinds of fiction. And then when I started working, then I found that fiction, I just couldn't read it, and I was only reading non-fiction. In the last decade, I have come full circle on reading fiction again, because I find that at this time of my life, I feel that non-fiction, non-fiction has also become very, lost a lot of credibility due to the polarization in societies across the world. So everybody is just giving one point of view. But also non-fiction, they dig deep, but it digs deep narrowly. Whereas fiction tries to build a whole world. And so it's not concerned with one thesis, narrow thesis. Whoever is writing, if it's a good, well-written book by a good writer, a good thinking writer, they are trying to build a whole world in that. So then fiction, to my mind, is more important now. Because if you're lying, it's difficult to build a whole world. But if you're looking for the meaning of life, then truth will guide you. I know that sounds very Swami Aditya, or Yogi Aditya.
So I think following journalism, working in the field of journalism, which already is very tough. And going ahead and writing fictional stories, so it must be very difficult for you to manage time, right? So if you would like to tell our viewers some time management techniques that you followed when you were hustling between writing fictions and following journalism.
Well, I mean, I'd always wanted to write, but it's only when I didn't have a job that I wrote.
Okay.
Right. And I mean, you hear a lot of examples of people, who worked in the day and wrote at night. I cannot do that. There are, various reasons for that. I don't see how people can, Stieg Larsson or Ernest Hemingway or even Munshi Premchand. Now, they must have been superhuman. I feel that if I'm concentrating on one thing, then that takes... If I concentrate for 4 hours, then my brain is dead for the rest of the day. So I cannot give time management. I'm the worst time manager. So don't listen to me. Do your own time. I mean, you have to find your own, something that suits your health, for instance. And, the thing is that I feel that people who have their feet in two different boats, they cannot do justice to both things. So either you do justice to one thing or to the other.
Okay. So one last question for you. What message would you like to give all the aspiring journalists out there?
Oh, this is a really tough question. I mean, just, a good journalist, try to be a good, truthful, honest journalist. Don't go after any allurement or inducement from any powerful person. Just remain faithful to the truth, and you will get success. You will get great success if only you stick to it. I mean, in the beginning it may be very difficult, and the circumstances around you may be very difficult, but you just have to stick to the truth, and you will attain whatever goals you have set for yourself.
With that, we come to the end of our episode. Aditya, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It's been an honor hosting you in the show.
Same.
And with this, we come to an end to a fantastic episode of Let's Talk. We will be back again with another interesting episode. Till then, please do keep watching the Assam Tribune, and do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our social media channels. That's all for today. This is Shobhik Roy Chaudhary signing off. See you soon again. Bye-bye.